What is going on, everybody? It is John, Cameron, and Uper from Motor City Metrics. A little bit of a weird time today, right after the Tigers game. Uper texted me. We thought something special was going down today. Something special. I mean, pretty special went down today.
Every day with you is special, John.
Oh, thank you. And we got Cameron. Cameron, is this the first time you've been on since the start of the season?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right. Well, if you want, what is kind of your quick thoughts on the Tigers season so far?
Everything's going as expected. We're second worst offense in the league. Pitching staff's come back around. That's looking like 2022.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a very, very succinct way to put it. There's a lot of similarities, no question about it.
Oh, yeah. But you know what?
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it hasn't looked like 2022 as Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were you going to say, Yoop?
Well, that was the fun today, and that's the up and down of baseball, right? We had something cooking there through 20 batters. That was a lot of fun, and that's where even a bad team can suck you in quick, right? And all of a sudden you're thinking, hey, you're going to see something maybe, depending who you are, you may never have seen on television before. Or, someone like myself, I think I've only seen two. So the perfect game was in play. I mean, he was pitching well enough to get it done. He wasn't getting in 3-ball counts again, just like he did against Cleveland last week. I only recall one 3-ball count, but I wasn't paying as close attention as last time on that. But he's really just working the strike zone really well, and he's throwing with such ease. He looks so comfortable out there and even keeled. Really was an impressive start from Eduardo Rodriguez. 2 in a row now. He's looking like the guy they wanted when they signed him. Hopefully he can kind of keep this going and make himself an asset moving forward. But it was a lot of fun today. And then, of course, we had the ending.
Yeah. And that's kind of my question is I kind of like to look at the bigger picture of things. And with him having such a good start to the season, but also being 30 years old, having that opt-out, has your kind of opinion on his future with the Tigers changed at all? Or like, what are your guys' thoughts? Is he still likely to not be on this team next year? Or like, do you think it's worth keeping him around as a veteran?
There's no way he stays. I mean, if his ERA is under 5, he's gonna go to free agency. And so I think probably quarter of the way through last year, I was like, okay, he's going to be traded sometime, either this year or next year. And yeah, I mean, he's pitching lights out, and I think he's going to be traded. I've always thought he was going to be traded. There's always going to be a veteran pitcher that the Tigers could pick up to help a young rotation. And I think at this moment, Eduardo's a perfect candidate to get a haul for Scott Harris to get his first haul in the trade market. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting if he can continue pitching to this level or close to it. I mean, obviously, the last 2 starts, he's been phenomenal. I mean, if he regresses a little bit from that, I mean, no one's going to blame you there. But if he keeps pitching well, let's say, nicely competitive throughout the summer, the big hope the Tigers obviously need is to be able to generate interest from multiple teams. So there's a couple of bids out there for him and teams jockeying for position to bring him on. Because if he's just a guy who's pitching mediocre and only 1 or 2 teams want him, the fact that he's a rental, if he opts out, it's going to be kind of a tepid return. But if he's pitching, to a relatively close to all-star level, and 3-4 teams need a pitcher, and even better yet, 1 or 2 of them need someone who they'll give the ball to in a playoff game, then yeah, they might be able to do something fairly attractive.
Well, I don't know, because I think my opinion on it's kind of has changed because I've looked at the free agency market for the upcoming class. It's really nothing special. And I think for the Tigers, obviously, Miggy's contract's coming off the books, Scope's contract, Matt Boyd, Michael Lorenzen, you're going to have to pay somebody.
Mhm.
And I think they're going to need starters this free agency unless, someone takes a step forward or how much trust you have in Mize, Manning, and Scooble to stay healthy. At this point, he's already been here. We don't, know how much he likes being here, but why not pay him and keep him long term to be that veteran? I mean, who else are you going to pay? You have to, have a respectable rotation next year. And unless there's another guy in free agency that you can really look at, I think you bring him back. And then maybe if he has another good year, maybe you look to trade him then. But I think they're going to kind of need a veteran leader for this rotation for the years to come.
So in that scenario, you would have to either let him opt out and re-sign him, which doesn't happen too often, but I guess it could happen. Or you'd have to preempt it with an extension, right? So are you willing to tack on, I don't even know, I'm not a GM, but 2 years? Well, what would be enough to entice him to stay?
Well, if he opts out and let's say we want to re-sign him, he's making $17 million a year, so he has 3 years, $51 million left on the table. Would you be comfortable paying him 3 years, $60 million? I mean, he's only 30 years old right now.
Oh, he's on a very reasonable contract, so yeah, if you bump it up to $20 million a year, that's fine. But depends how well he's pitching and what he's going to get. Now, like you said, what hurts the Tigers there is a lack of competition on the market. There's not that many other good pitchers out there, so he'll be able to command the top rate if he keeps pitching well.
I don't see him being here next year. I think he gets traded at the deadline, and I think Scooble should be back hopefully around the All-Star break, a little after All-Star break. And then, I mean, there are some pitching prospects in the pipeline. I mean, Ty Madden had a good start, had a bad start. Wilmer Flores had a better start today. So there is the cavalry coming, hopefully. Yeah, I don't even know if we need a veteran starter like Erod. We do have Spencer Turnbull still. I think does he have 1 year left till he hits free agency?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I just don't see a future with Eduardo with the Tigers. I think he's going to pitch his way into a better situation.
So yeah, I kind of agree. Probably no future, but the present was pretty good today. It was a lot of fun. And when we have a team that we all watch like this, we have to appreciate the good moments. And for 7 innings, it was a really good time. He was just so working ahead, strike one, strike two, so often. It was really something to watch. If he can continue, it's going to be great. But then, of course, he had to come out. And let's talk about Akil Baddoo's arm. What are some things that are weaker than Akil Baddoo's arm? I'm not sure if we come up with much of a list.
He didn't even hit the right cutoff man either. He should have
the one he did.
Yeah. And I would put Vierling in left field in Baltimore. I mean, it's just there's so much more space over there. I guess Baddoo does have some range, but I mean, that wasn't even testing his arm. I mean, that was like that was in front of where the bat boy sits, and he couldn't even make it to third base.
Well, Craig Monroe, he kind of described extremely well that he took a poor route to gather himself for a good throw, right? He came in there and it was almost like he looked like a third baseman stopping a ball hit right at him, instead of coming on an angle and getting ready to throw. And that seemed to throw everything off. So, I put out a tweet. It would be wonderful if we could magically make them all the same age and have a throwing contest between Akil Baddoo, Delman Young, Rondell White, Johnny Damon, and Kristen Stewart. I would pay to watch it. Not that I wouldn't pay much, but I'd pay a little to see that. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the throw is what it is, but at the end of the day, you're not going to win many games scoring 1 run, especially against the Baltimore Orioles lineup, which we think is one of the better ones in baseball. If you guys want to talk about the offense, that was initially what this was going to be about, was the offensive struggles, and they're still obviously there. Obviously, there was a bright spot in Erod. But yeah, for this offense, I mean, Zach McKinstry right now is looking like our best hitter, I believe.
Enough
Yeah,
said. That's end of the
yes.
show right there. That does it all.
Yeah, what are you guys seeing? What are your guys' thoughts? Are you that surprised? I thought they wouldn't be good. I didn't expect them to be getting shut out against Kyle Gibson. Like, I don't know. What are you guys seeing there?
Go ahead, Cam.
So yeah, Tiger Dog _1, some Tiger fan I follow on Twitter, tweeted 2022 Tigers average 3.43 runs per game, their lowest since 1906, the dead ball era. 2023 Tigers are averaging 3 runs per game through their first 20 games. So right now this offense is scoring less runs than last year's offense, and I don't think it'll stay that way. But geez, is it? It's frustrating to watch.
Yeah. They're just there's nobody in the lineup right now. I said, wow, that's a threat. The opposing manager isn't too often managing 3 steps ahead to make sure they avoid someone. They'll just pretty much take on whoever the Tigers send up there. It's fine. Last year when they were struggling, I kind of making fun of the Tigers. The Big Red Machine was obviously one of the greatest baseball teams ever in Cincinnati, right in the 70s. I started calling the Tigers the 2-run machine. And this weekend, they couldn't even live up to that. They were the 1-run machine every game. So, it's not pretty. Even like Torkelson scorched a line drive with the bases loaded. Someone makes a B+ level catch. They could have got a break there. Last night, McKinstry, probably it was a 3-0 pitch with the bases loaded. Pitcher threw it was probably ball 4, but the umpire gave him the old automatic because on 3-0, that's what a lot of umpires do. He ends up scorching a line drive for an out, costs him another run. So when it's going bad and you're not talented, you don't even get breaks either, it seems like. That's just kind of how these things roll. And it's a very, very ugly offense. And again, we've talked about it before and might as well bring it up again. The Ilitch-Harris regime there saw they had a historically bad offense last year, and they did nothing. They brought no one of substance in to fix the offense. And we could talk about Vierling and Maton, but there was nothing in their background other than hope that they were going to help turn this around. And so far they haven't, and they've had their moments, but I'm not saying they're bad players, but they weren't something we're going to count on fixing things with.
Yeah, just trying to look at some positives. I mean, Scope finally got a start today. I feel like he's very rarely been in the lineup. He did have a couple of hard hit balls today and didn't get rewarded. Jake Rogers had 2 walks again. He's been a bright spot. Nick Maton has been so up and down. He's obviously had the 3 home runs, but it's just striking out at a very high rate. And then Riley Green, to me, has probably been the most disappointing player, I'd say, on the Tigers so far. 3 strikeouts again today. Did have a hit. I don't know. What are we seeing from Riley Green? I would say if we had to pick out one player in this offense that we thought was going to kind of be the leader of it and be that hitter that pitchers feared, that certainly hasn't been him, for the majority of this season. And I don't know. What have you guys seen from him?
So we knew Green was always going to be a swing and miss guy. I mean, even in the minors, he was mid 20% strikeout percentage. He's close to 40% right now.
Yeah.
And when he is putting the ball in play, most of the time it's on the ground. Yeah, I mean, I don't analyze swings, but there's some adjustment that needs to be made because anything down and away with any type of movement, he's swinging right through it.
I agree. I'm not a hitting coach either, right? But just as someone who's watched a lot of baseball over the years and been on a lot of ball fields, his swing looks a little long to me. I never see a swing from Riley Green and I think, wow, that bat came through like lightning. Okay. I don't ever recall thinking that with him. So he needs to, when he does make good contact, it seems like he's kind of guessed right. He started early and he got the bat in position with that long swing. So, that's something you got to hope that he can work on, and then the coaching staff is aware of, if I'm right.
Touching on Jake Rogers real quick too, he is leading the team in WRC plus right now. I don't think he technically qualifies. Doesn't have enough plate appearances, but he does lead the team in WRC plus. And then the Jonathan Scope swings today, really promising. Line out 107 off the bat, straight to Cedric Mullins. Ground out straight to, I think, third baseman, 107 off the bat. And then another line out, 102. All of those above XBA, above 500. So he could have easily had 3 hits today. Torkelson with the opposite field blooper. I think that had an XBA of 600, but they played him perfectly. So Tigers left them stranded. So I think today could have had some different outcomes if things broke their way a little bit more. Some of the swings were good, but you can't give the team the benefit of the doubt when they've been struggling this much. So yeah.
Yeah. And if we looked at positives, but I mean, realistically, what kind of changes could they make? I know there's a guy in particular that's been getting a lot of hype that we wanted to talk about. But, I mean, is there any real help on the way? Is there anyone you guys can identify in the minors that you think can realistically help this team, or do you guys think we're going to have to stick it out with the group that we have?
Well, I mean, let's remember they're only, 20 games in?
Yeah, 20.
So, there's something to be said about patience. It's a long season. Things will change. Some guys will perk up, others won't. So I'm sure they're going to see, give people some rope. Also, because the team's expectations aren't very high. I mean, they'll never admit to that, but obviously this team's expectations aren't very high. So how does that motivate them to make changes? Now, Justin Henry Malloy is on fire, no question about it. It's going to be an interesting look at the Scott Harris MO of how he sees things. I mean, does he want to promote and reward excellent performance, or does he want to, let the guy alone and let him develop longer and make sure? We're going to find out. Malloy may just hit his way to Detroit. Team, players do that, and so far he is. How long will he have to sustain it in Detroit's eyes to put him in the majors? That's the question, I guess.
Yeah, so before spring training started, well, I think at the start of spring training, Scott Harris said he wants to play competitive baseball for as long as possible, kind of knowing, okay, we're probably not going to be in contention that long, but I want to put the best team on the field. Well, even after, 4-game losing streak, Tigers are only 4 back of Minnesota for first. So if Scott Harris is serious about having the most competitive team on the field for as long as possible through the season, I think he'll make some moves to get Jahan on the roster. Tyler Nevin hasn't shown that much in the 25 plate appearances he's had. Nevin will probably go back down. And Justin Henry Malloy is getting a lot of praise. He deserves it. OPS of 1,200 now. Zach Short, I think, is getting underlooked in this conversation. Zach, I compared him to Tyler Nevin on the Detroit Tigers subreddit today. Zach Short gets on base more than Tyler Nevin, higher walk percentage. And Tyler Nevin, I believe, only has 3 major league career home runs. You want to know who has more major league career home runs than Tyler Nevin? Zach Short. So, and right now he's tearing it up in AAA. And we know AAA numbers don't correlate to MLB. But again, if Scott Harris cares about fielding a competitive baseball team, he'll give Zach Short the plate appearances. And Zach Short's somehow made it through this whole time. He didn't get cut during the start of the offseason. Made it through spring training, still on the 40-man. Tearing it up in AAA, still on the 40-man. Yep. So I think we may see Zach Short in the majors pretty soon here.
We're going to see that deadly keystone combo of McKinstry and Short at second and short.
Oh, is that the new Harold Castro duo?
The new Tinkers to Evers to Chance. Short to McKinstry to Torkelson. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But you're right. I completely agree with that, Cam, 100%. Also, Ryan Kreidler has had a few good days when he's gone back to Toledo here. Does that mean anything to bring him back? Who knows? We'll have to see. But yeah, how long will they can let this struggle continue? How long will they be posting one run a game and decide, hey, we have to pull the trigger on some moves? It's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, because I think that could be the frustrating part. Like Cam said, they're only 4 games back of Minnesota. The Central right now is looking even worse than last year. The Guardians haven't been able to hit. The White Sox, we might touch on them in a bit. They've looked like a mess. They've looked worse than the Tigers, at least record-wise. And Minnesota got off to a strong start, but has kind of fallen back to 500. So the opportunity is there for them to at least somewhat compete in this division. We saw the 5-game win streak, and even though they got swept, they lost two out of these 3 games by 1 run. Their pitching, competed against a very good Baltimore Orioles lineup. And at this point, like, what does Jahan have to do to deserve the call up? I mean, he's absolutely raking. Does he have to do it for another month, another 2 months? Like, that's kind of the question we have. But I think the reason he's getting so much attention right now is because, guys like Zach Short and Ryan Kreidler, they're hitting well in Toledo. But I think a lot of fans are skeptical if that's going to translate to the majors. I think Malloy is just kind of that guy, not like the savior in a way, but he's kind of like the new kid on the block. Like, everyone wants to see him and wants him to get playing time. But I don't know how much of a difference could he even realistically make, because he didn't have the greatest spring training either. So it's like, maybe we're better off just keeping him in Toledo until we know he's 100% ready.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be a good read on what Scott Harris, how he believes in cultivating his prospects and his young players. Can Malloy mash his way to Detroit in the short term, or does he need to show some sustained success? So we're not going to know. We can guess, but nobody knows. Scott Harris has never run his own show before. He was not in charge in San Francisco. He was second in command. So this is on him now. And so the way this works this summer will be our first look at how he wants to roll with these kind of decisions.
Yeah, and just on the White Sox real quick, they did lose again to the Rays. The Rays are 19-3, by the way.
They're pretty good.
Man, we didn't get to touch on the White Sox on the last pod. If you guys want to touch on them right now, they're 7-15. I pose this question to Youper. Can the Tigers realistically be the 3rd best team in this division? I know that's not exactly saying a whole lot, but in terms of like Tigers and White Sox talk, if you want to get into that, like, what are you seeing from the White Sox? Do you think they're a team that could potentially sell at the deadline? Because they've had an absolutely dreadful start to their season.
Yeah, somewhere Tony La Russa is nursing a cocktail saying, hey, I guess it wasn't all me. So, it's really surprising. They have a talented roster on paper, but it just doesn't come together. When you look at their starting rotation and you look at some of the power bats that they have, you think, man, that's a good ball club. But somehow the pieces just don't fit. So you have to wonder if a shakeup is coming. But, their general manager, Rick Hahn, how many shakeups does he get? I mean, if that happens, they'd be on like rebuild number 4 with him. That's Rasputin-like there. That's amazing. So, their big problem right now, some injuries in the lineup, but they have an on-base percentage problem, I think. They're playing some guys with some kind of ratty on-base percentages. And when you look at the Tigers lineup, we know how that feels.
I think it's just going to come down to who beats who within the division. The Tigers are kind of on a good start, taking 2 of 3 from Cleveland. If they can take 2 of 3 from the White Sox, I mean, they're looking pretty good. It's the Central Division. I mean, up until last year, it wasn't until mid-August that Cleveland kind of ran away with it.
That's true.
Who knows what happens? And that's why I'll repeat that if Scott Harris cares about fielding a competitive team for as long as possible, make the decisions to put the Tigers in the best chance to win the division. And
Yeah, because that's the frustrating part too. Is like the opportunity is there. The pitching has been a lot better. The bullpen, even though they did struggle today a little bit, they've been a lot better as of late. Tigers right now are 23rd in baseball with a 4.85 ERA, which is nothing special, but it has dropped, I believe, a full run in the last week or so. Um, so yeah, I don't know what lies ahead, but if we want to just get to the next series against the Brewers, I mean, this schedule, I feel like, to be fair, has been pretty rough. It seems like they're playing a good team every single series, except maybe the Giants. You can kind of debate how good they're going to be this year. But now they're heading to Milwaukee to play the Brewers, who have had one of the hottest starts in baseball, sitting at the top of the National League Central. What are you guys' kind of expectations for this series? No Corbin Burns, no Brandon Woodruff. Are we expecting more of the same, or can we got Freddie Peralta game 3? That's going to be a tough matchup. What are you guys looking forward to in this series with Milwaukee?
if you told me at the start of the year, well, I mean, we all saw the schedule at the start of the year. I thought Milwaukee was going to be like, okay, one of the easier teams in these first 2 months. No, they're the best team in the National League. It's going to be, we're going to really get to see if our pitching can hold up, because our pitching's allowed a lot of home runs. Milwaukee's hit a lot of home runs.
Yes.
So it should be an interesting matchup. I think if Tiger starters can limit the home runs in the series, they'll have a chance, just like they have the past 3 series.
Matthew Boyd just covered his head with a blanket when he heard you say that. I have to limit home runs. Are you kidding me?
I think I think most of their home run hitters are lefties, at least. So
that's true. Yeah, it's going to be a good series. I wish it's close enough. I could have driven to that one. I wish it had been a weekend series. I like that ballpark. So it's kind of fun to watch games in there. I think they got Colin Ray pitching in the first one. He's had some decent starts for them. So it's all going to come down. Can the Tigers generate a modicum of offense? Can they put 4 runs on the board? Really go nuts and put a 4 spot on and see if they can hang on and win a game with 4. So we'll see. They're in the middle of a tough stretch of games with a lot of good teams on the schedule. They need to win a series here and there just to keep things afloat. Obviously, they're coming off the sweep, so it'd be really great if they could get that first one tomorrow, whether they win game 2 or 3 or not. If they could get tomorrow and know a sweep is not on the docket, that might give them a better shot win the next 2.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the good news, because we did talk about this before the season started. If the Tigers would win 10 games before they lose 20 games, I think they're gonna get there. I'm fairly confident in that. I don't know about you guys.
What are we, 7-13?
Yeah, I think they could do it. They have to go 3-6, 3-7.
3-6 would be 10-19. That would make your goal there.
Yes.
Sure, they can do that. I mean, if they could scratch out 2 against the Brewers, then I'd say for sure. But even if they get 1, then they got a good chance.
Yeah. And then after this series, Baltimore is coming to Detroit. So I think 3-6 is. I mean, it's sad that we're debating on if 3-6 is good enough.
I know they can do it.
Yeah, I think for this series, a lot of offensive players are fighting for their roster spot. I don't know how much leash Maton gets. He's on the 40. But I mean, they have to pay Scope. They don't have Maton, I believe, still has options. And then Nevin, I think he'll get probably at least 1 start. He's fighting for his roster spot. And I think this series will tell us a lot going back home to Detroit, and we'll see. I want to say there's going to be roster moves. Who knows? I could just be dreaming of roster moves when they get back to Detroit. But I think that's the case. I think a lot of hitters are fighting for their roster spot right now.
Yeah, and I saw in the comments. So they got 3 with Milwaukee, 4 with Baltimore, then I believe 3 with the Mets, and then they play the Cardinals. So yeah, man, it's been a rough start, but I'm predicting that April will be their worst month. I think it's record wise, that's my prediction for this season. You guys can hold me against it.
Well, hopefully when the weather warms up, the bats, the ball starts to travel, the bats get a little heated up as well. We'll see. Also, then attrition starts around the league with pitching. I mean, pitchers will drop out as the season wears on. So I'm trying to find reasons why the offense could perk up. I don't know if those are very strong reasons, but those are the ones that pop to mind.
I do want the Tigers take 2 of 3 from the Brewers because I want to see a world where Pittsburgh is in first place in the Central. I think the AL Central gets a lot of crap, but the NL Central is just as bad. Okay, and I think a first place Pirates team would be awesome for baseball.
That would be fun. Yeah, you're right. Especially when the Cardinals are a little bit down, that's not a great division. No question about it.
Yeah.
When the Cardinals are good, okay, fine, and they're pretty good, but they're not quite the powerhouse they were.
Yeah. Was it bad? Oh yeah. April. I feel like the Tigers. Yeah, last couple years, April's been rough for the Tigers. But yeah, I guess if you guys want to end it just with some MLB talk, you guys just want to give your thoughts on what's been the biggest surprise for the season. Obviously, every year that's what makes the sport so enjoying. What makes the sport so great is you see these players or these teams come out of nowhere. Is there anybody or any team that's stood out to you that has really caught your attention?
I'll go first because my standout is James Outman.
Oh.
Going into the year, I'm like, what are the Dodgers doing? Trace Thompson's going to be their starting center fielder. To be fair, he had that 3 home run game. But I mean, come on, Dodgers, you guys are a better organization than that. They had James Outman tucked away. I mean, the dude has a 1100 OPS in his first 75 at bats. Absolutely raking. Love to see it. I drafted him in on my fantasy baseball team for fun. I put $5 on him to win Rookie of the Year at plus 4,000.
Nice.
Looking pretty good so far.
Love it. Wow, that's cool. For me, not a surprise so much, but just something I've been enjoying watching is Corbin Carroll of the Diamondbacks. I think his on base isn't that high yet. It's like 302 or something, but everything else is there. I mean, you can just see it. I mean, he's got the power. He's got the insane speed.
Oh, did you just go?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
He's the guy to me has that short, quick, aggressive swing that I wish Riley Green had. That bat comes firing through the strike zone, and you just think that he's going to hit the ball hard somewhere when he does hit it. So I've been watching a lot of Corbin Carroll. I'm buying Corbin Carroll stock, no question. And my other thing is the Texas Rangers have actually been pretty sporty little team this year. They're playing a lot better than I thought.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think Baltimore has been. I mean, they're 14-7 right now. They've won 6 in a row. I don't know how realistic it is for them to be like a high 80s, low 90s win team, but their pitching's certainly been better than expected. Obviously, Adley Rutschman looks like a star. They've been a fun little story as well. And then the Pirates, which, I mean, I like the Pirates, but at the end of the day, when you have Andrew McCutchen and Carlos Santana as your number 3 and 4 hitters, they've been a fun story. I don't really know if I think the Pirates are going to be able to stick at the top of the NL Central. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, they won't stick up there most likely, but it's been a fun first month. It's the type of first month I wish the Tigers had.
Yes. But yeah, I think that's going to be all for us today. Just a quick little 35-minute pod. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And yes, make sure to check us out back here on Thursday with Raj and Chris and the whole gang. Thank you, Cameron, for stepping up. Hopefully we have more better stuff to talk about in the weeks to come. And yeah, keep killing it on Twitter as always. And from Uper, we don't know what happened to him, but we'll check in on him. Hopefully he's okay. And help. And we'll see you guys in the next one.